Welcome to Bacon Shorts by Bacon Sports. I'm Rob Cressy. This is episode 20. Like we do every Friday, with me, industry insider from covers.com, Jason Logan, where he's in the house and we're going to be talking about the NFL Week 9 lines. Jason, who is your hashtag random athlete of the day?
Well, college basketball is starting up pretty soon, so I went with one of my favorite players. I'm a Michigan State fan. I went with Drew Neitzel, who was that point guard from 2004 to 2008. He was the floor general. He was Izzo's man. I think now he's working as a financial advisor at Wells Fargo, but he was one of my favorite players to watch at MSU.
Nice. I love what you went with that. Some Drew Neitzel. For me, you're going to like this one. I'm going with former Dallas Cowboys running back Troy Hambrick, whose birthday it is today.
That's pretty random.
Right. So one thing I like to do is just check to see whose birthday it is. And by the way, celebrating a birthday, a big shout out, Pat Tillman. Today is his birthday. So
nice. I saw Arizona State did a thing for him there last week. They wore the camo and it was like a Pat Tillman inspired support the troops thing. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think Arizona State covered that game.
I don't think they did either, no.
I was not happy about that, and I'm already not a fan of Todd Graham. So, all right, let's get right to the NFL Week 9 games. Who are the sharps betting this week?
The big sharp play this week is the Rams at the Vikings. This one opened with -2 Minnesota. It's been bet down as low as a pick at some online books. In Vegas, you'll see some around -1. It's come up a bit at some offshores to -2, but the early sharp action really jumped on the Rams, and they pushed this line down considerably.
So one thing that I find curious about this is, isn't the Vikings a relatively public team, especially starting the season? I know a lot of the public bet the over on the win total for the Vikings, and they've seemed to be pretty good this year. Seems like these are relatively evenly matched teams. Maybe the Rams have got a better defense, but I think I might like I don't know if I like the offense better for the Vikings, but I think, is there a Todd Gurley effect going on?
With this, I think they're just looking at a chance to play against the Vikings. Like you said, Minnesota was a very public team, so sometimes those lines can get a little puffed up and the public gets involved. And the sharp guys look for opportunities to go against those public teams. So this is a perfect example of that.
All right, speaking of the public, who is the team the public is on this week?
Well, they've fallen in love again with the Broncos. The Broncos have been the public darling for pretty much ever since Peyton Manning went there. But this season, because of the way they started, they just didn't have that same love for the Broncos. But after beating Green Bay, they've jumped back on them. And they're still in love with the Packers despite the loss. The public is buying into the Packers more than they are the Carolina Panthers, which is a great matchup this week.
What is the game the books are sweating the most?
It's the Falcons-Niners game, and there's a lot of reasons why, and we'll get into those, but it's going to be pretty much one-sided Falcons money. There's going to be a ton of parlays tied into this, and this is a 4 p.m. kickoff, so it's not really the afternoon game that they want. They want a game in there that's really going to kill off some of those existing parlays from the 1 p.m. games. But I don't think the Niners may not have it in them for this one.
All right, let's do a breakdown of each of the Week 9 games, starting with my Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Raiders. Steelers are at home, 4-point favorites. Over-under is 48.
Yeah, this is kind of an interesting line move with this one. Oddsmakers actually made Pittsburgh a touchdown favorite heading into this, but that was before Oakland looked good and before the Le'Veon Bell injury. So oddsmakers sent out -7 Pittsburgh to the books. The books saw the injury, saw how well Oakland played, and opened -5.5. And then it's even been bumped down further to -4. So we've seen Bell be worth 3 points on the spread. We saw what Pittsburgh did earlier in the year with him suspended. D'Angelo Williams came in, had some great production, but Bell is a completely different wrinkle to this offense. He keeps the defenses guessing. Is he going to pass? Is he going to run? This guy's a dynamic player, possibly the most dynamic player in the league, and it's a big hit to their offense not to have him there.
Yeah, tell me about it. When that happened, being a Steelers fan, I was nauseated. Are the Raiders becoming overvalued? I know they were darlings there, and it seems like everybody's very quick to say, all right, the Raiders are the next team that is going to make the wild card. And when I look at this game, this is a monster game for the Steelers. I think they're sitting at 4-4. They need this game to keep the positive momentum. And Big Ben was coming off injury last week, so we knew there was the one game where he's got to get his sea legs under him. I fully expect the Steelers to be firing on all cylinders, and Raiders got to go west to east. Not exactly the easiest thing for a team that isn't as consistent. For me, I think that people are jumping the gun a little bit too soon on the Raiders, even though I have liked the Raiders in this offense. I just don't know about this spot for them.
Yeah, I mean, they were a sharp pick earlier in the year, and that doesn't necessarily mean that the public's been all over them. The public may just be now catching up to them. So you may see their value dwindle here and there, but I really like the Raiders secondary. They've got a big physical secondary, and it's going to be I think it's going to be one of the better games of the week, honestly. It's a surprisingly good game.
All right, up next, the Jets at home taking on the Jaguars. Jets are 7.5-point favorites. Over-under is 42.
Yeah, the Jets, I looked at a stat the other day, and the Jets actually have the second easiest second-half schedule from here out. Jacksonville is the other team, the team that they play, who has the first easiest schedule. That really sets up for them to make a run at the wild card. And I found another really cool stat the other day, too. The New York is 7-1-1 ATS in their last 9 conference games. So against AFC foes, they've done quite well at the window.
So how are we supposed to evaluate this Jets team, knowing that the most crucial position on the field is quarterback, and their option is an injured Ryan Fitzpatrick or Geno Smith? I get the love for the Jets. They've done well as a team, but how many times do we need to go down the Ryan Fitzpatrick line where everyone's like, oh my God, this is the year for them, and then inevitably here comes the 4 interception games, then you realize, oh, this is Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Sure. I think as long as he can have enough control over his hands to give the ball to Chris Ivory and let Chris Ivory just run through this Jags defense. We've seen the Jaguars get beat up by some physical downhill runners this year, and they don't come as big and as physical as Chris Ivory. So I think it's going to be a lot of ground and pound for the Jets, and Fitzpatrick will have to make plays when he can.
All right, next game, we mentioned briefly, Vikings at home taking on the Rams. Vikings 1.5-point favorites. Over-under is 40, which is the lowest on the board for the week.
Yeah, this one has a grounded out theme to it. Adrian Peterson versus Todd Gurley. One cool stat that I looked at in my weekly mismatches column is the Rams' red zone defense has just been tremendous. They've only allowed teams inside the 20-yard line 16 times, and they've only given up a touchdown in just over 31% of those tries. They've also had, I believe it's 36 negative runs, so they've had 36 tackles for a loss on running backs, and they're taking on a Minnesota offense that really isn't, they don't have the huge firepower. They really rely on Peterson to pick up those gains, and Minnesota has struggled inside the red zone. Inside the 20, they've scored a touchdown on just 38% of the red zone tries. So 2 mismatching stats going against each other in this one.
You've got to choose one, Nick Foles or Teddy Bridgewater. Which one of those two do you want as your quarterback? I guess leading a team into the playoffs.
Leading a team into the playoffs. Whew. I think Bridgewater for me right now.
Do you think it's the Vikings?
I guess I've seen enough bad from Nick Foles and not enough bad from Teddy Bridgewater to convince me. So right now, Teddy Bridgewater is he doesn't leave that bad taste in my mouth like Nick Foles might.
All right, Buffalo Bills at home taking on the Dolphins. Bills are 3-point favorites, over under 44, and it looks like the bye week came at a good time for the Bills. Tyrod Taylor should be playing. LaShawn McCoy got a little bit healthier there.
The Bills have owned this series. They've dominated them. They kicked the snot out of the Dolphins in Week 3, 41-14 in Miami as a 1.5-point road underdog. They've gone 4-1 ATS in the last 5 meetings overall. And they're 8-3 ATS in their last 11 at home versus the Dolphins. So the Bills have really owned the fish in this matchup.
So do you see this as almost like a season-defining game for the Dolphins? They come off they fire Joe Philbin. They get two, we'll call them nice wins where there's positivity, come back down to earth versus the Patriots. So now it's like, which way is this Dolphins team going to go? Because they really need to put the pedal forward if they're going to make a race at this in the wild card. And I just think there's a little bit of inconsistency in this Dolphins team. And I think certainly if they're going to turn this season around, they've got to be able to beat this division rival on the road.
Mm-hmm. I mean, picking up a big divisional win on the road would be a massive, badge for them to pick up. But it's asking a lot. Whether this is a defining moment of their season, I mean, geez, you could have a lot of the London game could be a defining moment of their season.
Right.
You know, when everything fell apart and they fired Philbin. So it's asking a lot of them. I'll say that. So, I mean, yeah, if they can pick up a win here, it definitely would be a big boost to their season and maybe a turnaround for the franchise. But it's still, like I said, asking a lot for them to do with that inexperienced coaching staff.
All right, Saints at home taking on the Titans. Saints are 8.5-point favorites. Over under is 48, and it looks like everyone's going to be ready to jump back on that Saints bandwagon, huh?
Yeah, I mean, they've looked good, and it's funny. The Saints went into the year as a team that we're going to stop the run and we're going to run the ball, which is something that they haven't been able to do past seasons. This year, they at least got one of them right. They've been able to run the ball. Ingram looks good. He's keeping my fantasy team afloat. But the one thing with the Saints we've seen, at least from a betting perspective, is that they've played down to opponents. They're 0-4 in their last 4 games versus opponents that have a losing record. So while they've been up to the challenge, they may take a regression here, especially after last week. I mean, how do you repeat that, or how do you follow that, right?
Right. I don't believe in this Saints team. I think it's the narrative, or at least the narrative in my mind was previously, is Drew Brees the same quarterback? And it didn't look like it, and it takes one good game and everyone's back on them. But I don't forget everything else that I saw this season before that.
Yeah, people are always, they're quick to remember what happened most recently and not look back into the catalog and see, what have the Saints done before that game. Brees, he didn't look like himself. I believe he was nursing some sort of injury. So, I mean, as these guys get healthy, they get back into it. But, it's tough to put all the chips on the Saints right now, especially after they've been just so kind of two-faced this season.
Oh, and that's such a Saints thing. People want to root for the Saints. They want to see, no, man, Marcus Colston's the number one. He's awesome. They're going to be good. No one can stop them. They're the greatest show on turf.
Yeah, Ben Watson's been doing it all right for me. Big ups to Ben Watson.
Yeah, big shout out. He's balling hard. All right,
yeah,
next game, we got the Patriots at home taking on the Redskins. Patriots, 14-point favorites, over under 52, highest of the weekend.
Yeah, the Pats have just crushed NFC opponents. I look back at a stat, and since 2002, they've gone 43-10 straight up versus NFC opponents. That's the highest winning percentage for an AFC team over an NFC team. It even beats out your Steelers. I went back and looked at the numbers on that, and they're 31-21-1 ATS, so they're covering just under 60% against the NFC. This one's at 14 against the Redskins at home. I'm surprised that it isn't bigger. And if you are looking to bet the Patriots, which a lot of people are, you may want to jump on it now, because I think come Sunday, everyone and their dog is going to want to jump on the Patriots.
And it looks like this is an 80-20 rule game. It looks like right now 80% of the bets are coming in on the Patriots, but I don't think people typically do not get rich betting against the Patriots. But if we're looking at value, 14 points, 2 touchdowns is a lot to be getting up.
It is a lot. Yeah, it's tough to give that amount of points. Look at the game last night between Cleveland and Cincinnati. I got stupid and waited and got plus 13 on the Browns, thinking that, oh, no, it's a divisional game, and it looked good at half. But, don't be afraid to lay the points and hope for that big cover.
Yeah, all right. Up next, one of the, if not the best game of the weekend, Panthers at home taking on the Packers. The Packers 2.5-point road favorites, over under 46. How about that? The Packers team coming off the loss to the Broncos. I guess people still, at least from a public perception, you got to shade that line to Green Bay, because I still don't think people are on Carolina as much as they should be potentially.
No, and that's talking to books this week, they were saying like people are still in love with the Packers and they're still going to grab Packer money. So this line may move. It may even go up to a field goal by Sunday. But the Packers really haven't been that impressive. Obviously, they lose last week, but they haven't been that high flying, just blow them away offense. And a crazy stat that I found this week: Green Bay's passing, they rank 30th in first down passing. So they've only picked up first downs with a pass 9.6 times per game, and it's 30th in the league, which doesn't kind of click with our perception of Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers. They do rely on the big play to move the chain, so it's not like they're moving 10 yards at a time. But now they go up against a Carolina team. They've only allowed 7 passes of 25 yards or more in the season. They keep the defenders in front of them, and they have one of the better pass defenses in the league. So this is a really interesting matchup, and this will definitely be an eye-opener for those who don't believe in the Panthers if they can come through with a win.
Right, so could the narrative be, all right, Josh Norman takes out Randall Cobb. Now who does Aaron Rodgers have to throw to, which I believe may have been one of the issues that the Packers are seeing this year. Down goes Jordy Nelson. You got Randall Cobb, then who else is there? Devontae Adams hasn't materialized. Tim Janis and Ty Montgomery. You got James Jones, but it doesn't seem like a lot of weapons, especially with Eddie Lacy in the running game just not being there.
Yeah, and then, if you can't find those receivers, the clock's ticking and that pressure's building, and Carolina has a terrific pass rush too. So.
All right, next game we got, as you mentioned, one of the more actionable games of the weekend. 49ers at home taking on the Falcons. Falcons 7-point favorites, over under 44, and it looks like over 80% of the bets are currently coming in on the Falcons.
This one is a head scratcher to me, and I don't know if you feel the same way, but it seems like +7 Niners is too low. Like it should be bigger for everything that's going on there. Like a QB switch, I know Kaepernick, isn't Joe Montana out there, but they switch that, they lose pretty much all their running backs. They got Pierre Thomas in there now. They picked him off the curb, and there's turmoil all over this franchise. It just against a team that's been quality like Atlanta, and I know Atlanta can sometimes struggle on the road, and this is a big cross-country trip, but it just seems a little low to me. A touchdown spread with just everything that's gone on with San Francisco just seems far too low.
I agree with that. The thing is, I don't like this Atlanta team in a grand scheme of things. I watched that game. I had Tampa Bay last weekend, so I was paying attention, and Atlanta shot themselves in the foot. The number of stupid turnovers they had within the 30-yard line getting ready to score they handed Tampa that game, and Matt Ryan isn't doing as well as I think we would all like to think. He's only, we'll call him a good quarterback. You see Julio Jones, obviously Devontae Freeman doing well. I just don't know what to make of this Atlanta team because I don't think good teams lose to a team like the Buccaneers right there. But at the same time, what in the world do you do with this 49ers team? It's like, what can you put your finger on to say, this is why I'm going to take them as a 7-point home dog?
Yeah, if you're handicapping this game, it's almost, you're not handicapping why you should bet the Niners. There's plenty of reasons why you should not bet the Niners. You're looking at reasons why you should not bet the Falcons. So kind of focus your handicapping energy on that. You gave a couple good reasons there. But to me, this just seems like, and it has been, I have seen a 7.5 out there, but the majority of places are at 7. Just a clean touchdown on this. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes by, as we said, a lot of the public is going to be on this. A lot of parlays are going to be tied to this. So I believe it's going to go up by Sunday. But right now, just hanging at a 7 without a hook either way just seems silly to me.
So I guess, is there any team then that you would really feel comfortable if Atlanta was an 8-point road favorite? I mean, I guess that's sort of what I'm looking at now is reverse this completely on Atlanta and saying, do you feel comfortable with them having to perform to that level?
And cover that with the weapons that they have and just, like I said, with the weapons that they have, Freeman can go off and have a 3-touchdown day. Julio Jones is cash money in the red zone, so you just got to find him. And you've got 2 guys that can find the end zone if you get close. That's the big thing, like you said, with turnovers with Atlanta. Like as long as they don't shoot themselves in the foot and they get within 25, 20 yards of the end zone, they're going to score because they have the guys that can do it.
All right, next game, we've got the Buccaneers at home taking on the Giants. Giants 2.5-point road favorites. Over under is 50.
cool thing about the Bucks right now, they've won 2 of their last 3, covered in those games. They're the only losing team at 3-4 on the season with a winning ATS record, which is 4-3 ATS, which is kind of a banana stat. It's been a very top-heavy year. The elite teams are covering the spread. Everyone else below them is just kind of bouncing into each other. Tampa Bay, the only sub-500 team that's actually in the black. At least with this matchup, the guy you want to look at is Doug Martin. This guy can break off some big gains. Pulled up some numbers here. Martin has 19 runs of 10 yards or more, and 7 of those have gone for 20 yards or more. The Giants in the last 3 weeks have actually given up 8 runs of 15 yards or more over the last 3 weeks. So susceptible to giving up big gains, and Doug Martin has come back around and shown that he's one of the better running backs in leagues again.
For some reason, I still like this Giants team. Last week, I got bit by not getting the good number. I got the Giants +3, and then I saw 3.5s out there, and I didn't reload on it. And then, of course, they lose by 3, and it's just like, oh man, it's a roller coaster with this Giants team. And is this a weird or a bad spot for them, seeing them as short road favorites against a team that may be a little bit better than we expected?
I think because it's under a field goal, I think that's a pretty telling thing, at least where New York is, or at least where the Bucks are. That's really going to force people to have an opinion on this game when you put up that 2.5.
All right, next game, another juicy one. Colts at home taking on the Broncos. Broncos 5-point road favorites. Over-under is 45, and it looks like 80% of the bets currently coming in on the Broncos.
Crazy thing about this, talking with CG Technology in Las Vegas, they actually opened spreads for every game from week 1 to week 16 for the entire year. And I think this year they did it in like April. This one actually opened with Indianapolis as a field goal favorite at home to Denver. And then, like you said, it opened +3, and now it's moved to +5. That's an 8-point swing on the spread. If you had looked at where the actual original spread was on this game back in April, and where it is now, like that, without an injury behind it, that's kind of an unprecedented move. You don't see too many of those. One thing I looked at in this game, obviously the Colts bring in a new offensive coordinator. They can the old guy. They bring in a new offensive coordinator. He wants to go faster, which may kind of be a problem for the Colts because they have had a tough time hanging on to the football, interceptions and fumbles. I think they're second overall in giveaways this year. Have 19 or 17 fumbles and interceptions on the year. Then you take on a Broncos defense that just thrives on chaos, and they're second in takeaways. So, I mean, you got a new offensive coordinator throwing some new wrinkles in there against a very good defense that loves to force turnovers. It just seems like a bad mix.
Is this Colts team going to go down as one of the hardest teams to figure out this year, knowing that preseason expectations are win the division, maybe an outstretched Super Bowl run? So you see a team that people say, man, there's value. Andrew Luck's the quarterback. Frank Gore, Andre Johnson, T.Y. Hilton. This is the team that, for all intents and purposes, should be able to figure it out and turn it around. But as you said, there's been so much turmoil. Good things typically don't happen switching your offensive coordinator mid-season. So from a Joe Public standpoint, I have a hard time removing my Colts bias of Andrew Luck with everything that I'm seeing now being 5-point home dogs.
Well, maybe we need to go back and look at the Colts seasons in the past years and see what they've done. I mean, the AFC South has just been a joke, and they've had some of the easier schedules in recent years too. So we just could have been a little too fat and happy on the Colts. Like we just might have been a little, they may have been inflated a bit because of they play weaker opponents compared to other AFC good teams, AFC elite teams. So, maybe we were just wrong on the Colts all along. Maybe this isn't just this season. Maybe they were this bad all along, but they just played bad or worse teams. And then now, the curtain has been pulled back on Indianapolis, and we're seeing them for what they really are.
All right, let's head to your Dallas Cowboys taking on the Eagles. Eagles 3-point road favorites, over under 44.5.
Yeah, this one worries me, and it's not so much the Eagles' offense because it's been hit and miss, and Dallas's defense has really improved. The one thing that really worries me about this game is Dallas's kick return coverage. It's been horrific, just terrible. They're worst in the league on kick returns. They're giving up more than 30 yards per return. And this is an Eagles team that, when the offense has failed to score, the special teams has stepped up. They're number one in punt returns this year. They were the best kick return team last year. I think if they don't score on offense, like I said, the Dallas defense is improving, and they held in against Seattle last week, kept that game close until we get my man Tony back. Miss you, Tony. It's going to be all on the back of the defense, really, and I think if they can shut the door on them and then make some plays on special teams, then they have a chance to win. But they can't be giving up the big returns and giving Philadelphia solid starting field spots.
Does this Cowboys team have a chance to make the playoffs? Because they're in a great division for it.
Yeah, I think if they run the table at the end of the year, they're going to have to win the division. Washington and New York and Philadelphia are terribly inconsistent. We talked about last week, which team scares you the most, and it's kind of all those NFC East teams. I think if Romo can come back, the defense continues to improve. Bryant gets healthy. The running game is starting to gain some traction now too. So now it's just a matter of making defenses play a little more honest, not stuffing 8 and 9 guys in the box. And you can't do that against Tony because he can sling it. You'll see guys like Terrence Williams kind of wake up and emerge because he's a good deep threat, and he'll have a single coverage where Des Bryant will be drawing double coverage the more he gets healthy and back into the offense. As an optimistic Cowboys fan, as a blind, loyal Cowboys fan, yeah, we have a chance to make the playoffs.
I haven't bet the Cowboys since Romo went down, bet for or against them. Just the quarterback situation with Matt Castle. I know he's been an improvement, but it's just so hard for me to put the trust in there. And I get value and all that stuff. It's just so much harder for me to invest in a team like that when there is a big uncertainty. The offense is probably going to struggle, and you're hoping that all other facets of the game stay neutral, and that's a tough thing to ask.
Yeah, as a Cowboys fan, I probably know them better than any other team, but I still don't like to bet on them. I've been actually betting their totals here and there since Romo went down, just because it is pretty telling. But yeah, they're just, when you have that big of a question mark and then asking a lot of other people to step up and fill that void, it's that's too much uncertainty if you really value your money and value your bets.
All right, last game of the weekend, Monday night, San Diego Chargers at home taking on the Bears. Chargers are 4-point home favorites. Over-under is 49.
2 big injuries in this one. Obviously, Matt Forte going down for the Bears. He's out for at least 2 weeks. Sprained MCL, I believe. He's worth about 2.5 points of the spread, talking to odds makers earlier in the week. And then you have Keenan Allen out for the Chargers. But with receivers, they're not as valued as high as running backs and quarterbacks. So Keenan Allen's only worth about 1 point to the spread, even though he was on a record pace for that franchise and was putting up big numbers. They have some other guys that can come in and make plays. Malcolm Floyd played very well once Allen went down. Antonio Gates was slowed by injury last week, but he's going to get healthy and have his catches. They've got other guys that can step in. They're not going to stop throwing the football because Keenan Allen's not there. But if you look at Chicago in this instance, without Forte, and he's like Le'Veon Bell, he's a guy that can catch and run, and it really keeps defenses guessing. They can throw some different formations out there and get the defense on their heels. Now it looks like you got to put the ball in Jay Cutler's hands, and this could turn into a shootout. And as Bears fans know, sometimes asking Jay Cutler to put the team on his shoulders is not the best game plan.
I wouldn't be surprised of anything that happens in this game.
Yeah, it's at least going to be an entertaining Monday night game. Like if you just want to watch a crazy game, I think this is the one.
All right, Jason, time for you to give us some plugs. What are you working on with covers? What do you got cooking?
Sure. Well, another big weekend in sports. College football ramped up. The LSU Alabama game is just massive, so we've got coverage up and down on that. We'll have Joe Fortenbaugh's college column coming out today. My mismatches column is up there now, so I'm breaking down some underlining mismatches where you can find value against the spread. Doing my muff punt column today as well. It's a fun take on the NFL week. I like it at the end of the week. I can blow off some steam and have a lot of fun with the writing. NBA and NHL are in full swing now too, so we'll have coverage on all of that. Follow us on Twitter. We have, breaking injury news, weather news, line moves, reports from the books, reports from the wise guys. Just about anything you need. And the great thing about Covers is this stuff is all free. There's no subscription. There's no anything you need to pay. You come to Covers, you check out our editorial stuff, you check out our stats and matchups. It's all free stuff. So it's good good if you love sports betting, and it's an entertaining read if you just like reading about sports betting.
Yes, I second that. I dig everything that you guys have cooking. So, guys,
Thanks,
we do this every Friday. Hope to see you guys again next week. As always, if you got action on the board this weekend, hit me up at Bacon Sports. Let's talk and have some fun. Boom shakalaka.